So here, when a company or an organization thinks of entering into the global market, it takes into consideration the four things, or these are the four factors which the organization considers. These are the main reasons you can say for the organizations to enter into foreign nation or foreign market. The first and foremost important is the increased market size. Now, why company thinks of entering into a foreign nation first and foremost? Initially, any company usually it starts on the local front, that is the domestic market. They would like to cater to the domestic market. Now, here it depends upon the industry into which the into which the company is operating, whether it's into FMCG, whether it is into pharma sector, whether it is into automobile sector. So here the market scenario or the industry scenario for each and every company is different. So one cannot say that a particular reason only should be the objective of the company to enter into global markets. Usually it happens that you have more manufacturing capacity. Okay, and once you fulfill the demand of the domestic market, after a certain limit, the companies come to know that this is the particular threshold limit where we can just get so much amount of demand, or so much is the demand in the local market. After that, maybe you reach a saturation point, and that's why the companies would like to enter into foreign markets, because they now understand that here it has already reached the saturation peak. So you may have more manufacturing facilities to support the efficient working or to work out in the global markets. So hence you try to cater to the needs of the global markets. Now other thing is, maybe the customers, they are not pro to prefer your products. That is, in the domestic markets, the customer may prefer the competitor products, and you are not gaining edge after trying effortlessly. You don't get an edge over the competitors, and that's why you have a very small share of market in the local market, and that's why you want to enter a global market. Now here there may be many reasons. Just the pricing strategy would be a limit, or maybe you might have priced the product high because of the quality. Okay, and in the market, purchasing power parity may be a limitation. That's why people are not purchasing, because you are catering to higher end products. So that's why you want to enter into the global markets. That is what is known as a limited opportunities. You find that there are limited opportunities in the domestic markets, and that's why you would like to enter into global market. The strength of global markets may facilitate efforts to more effectively sell or produce products that create value for customers. And hence you can think of expanding the size of the market. Financially, the company may be much more strong, that it wants to grow by entering into the foreign nations. Now, the next reason is the return on the investment. Now, this is very important for it. When you invest into any project, definitely the basic aim or objective is the returns which the company might be expecting. Large investment projects may require global markets to justify the capital outlays. Weak patent protection in some countries implies that firms should expand overseas rapidly in order to preempt the imitators. the larger markets, larger in the terms of maybe demographic scenario or in terms of financial aspects, are more attractive as compared to the domestic markets. And basic and the foremost thing is to generate above average returns. If you want to gain the economies of scale and gain above average returns, the companies think of investing beyond their global limits. That is, beyond their local limits, they enter into the global markets. The next is economies of scale and learning. Expanding the size and scope of markets, it helps the companies to achieve economies of scales in manufacturing as well as marketing. The same is true in terms of research and development as well as the distribution. As they enter into a larger market size, this demand rises, which ultimately leads to the costs to spread over large sales base. And this will help in increasing the profits per unit. Firms may also be able to exploit core competencies in international markets or global markets through resource and knowledge sharing between units and network partners across country borders. So when you enter into the global markets, usually you go for one or the other entry modes, maybe joint ventures, strategic alliance, partnerships, licensing, etc. In that case, when you tie up with the other company, you share the resources. The knowledge is shared in between both the companies. In this manner, the firms can learn how to create synergy, which in turn can help each firm learn how to produce higher quality products at a lower cost. So that's why it's gaining economies of scale as well as learning something new, maybe with reference to technology, maybe with respect to operations, maybe with respect to some other aspects from the other companies. The next is location advantages. Low cost markets may aid in developing competitive advantage, which helps in achieving better access to critical resources like raw material, lower cost labor, key customers. So everything is handy when you take the advantage of the locations. Maybe for some firms, lower labor cost is the attraction, the energy and other natural resources, which are easily available as far as the location part is considered. Cultural influences may be advantageous as a strong cultural match facilitates global business transactions. When culturally both the companies come from the same cultural origin, it becomes much more easier to move ahead in the foreign nation. Physical distance influences firms' location choices like transportation costs, access to critical supplies, and to customers. So, uh, when you think about economies of scale or return on investment, even the location plays a very vital role here. So, these were the some of the reasons why the companies think, or maybe before entering into the global markets, they just take a close look on these aspects. Whether the screen is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So from here we move on to the next part, that is global strategic alliances and resources and business level strategies. Now, up till here we just analyzed what were the mode of entries, why the companies think of going into the national markets or moving into the global markets, what were the reasons, how do they analyze. Now This part focuses on the strategic alliance and what would be the strategies at the business level. Now here we'll be taking into consideration the different types of strategic alliances. So here we would be discussing, the first part would be concentrating on strategic alliances, that is global wise, local alliance, the typology or the framework, the value potential, partner analysis, that is what are the considerations while choosing the partners, how do you analyze it, the negotiation, what are the steps of the negotiation and design, implementation of alliance management, global multilateral alliances, criteria for successful alliances. Okay, this is about the strategic alliance part. Next, we would be looking into the global mergers and acquisitions. The rationale of cross-border mergers and acquisitions, cross-border acquisition performance, deciding on integrating the companies while considering the merger and acquisitions, the integration phase, the transition phase, the consolidating phase. So here this chapter focuses on more on uh, global strategic alliances as well as mergers and acquisitions in the global context. A strategic alliance, as we have seen in the previous session, a strategic alliance is an agreement between two or more parties stating that the involved parties will act in a way in order to achieve a common goal. So here, when the two parties they come together to form a strategic alliance, or to be more precise, they enter into an agreement where they find that they have a mutual goal or come together to achieve a mutual common goal, so that they can enter the market with a better operational efficiencies or gain greater market share. Now, the alliance is a cooperative strategy. The alliance is a cooperation which intends for an interaction where each partner hopes that the benefits from the alliance will be greater than those from individual efforts. So here the basic thing lies into the understanding that maybe if the companies operate solely independently on their own, it would require more efforts, and if the company does not has that expertise in that particular area, it will be difficult for the company to enter into a particular global market. So better have the alliance with other company, those who have that expertise. Now we are coming to the next point, is local wise global alliance. A firm may want to learn more about the deep rooted competition or strong government regulation. Partnering with a local firm can often help it navigate around such barriers. So here, when you think of entering into the alliance with the local company, okay, it becomes much more easier as the local company is aware about all these environmental forces, how to produce the goods, acquire certain resources, especially dealing with the local government, the regulations, how to manage all these different environmental factors, the customer know-how. So this local company is very much aware of pros and cons of all these environmental factors. They understand the requirements of their markets, especially where the people need the local touch in the product or customization, where the people they prefer their local taste and preference For such companies, the local companies is the best modes of entering into the foreign nation. It enables a firm to focus on resources on its core skills and competencies while acquiring other components or capabilities it lacks from the partners. A global company which is entering into foreign nations, maybe they might have surveyed through marketing research, but still they may face problems at their end. And that's why the local partnering is always preferred while entering a global market. So this is one aspect why a company should tie up with the local company. But when you think of global alliance, maybe in certain contexts it happens that two companies who are operating in the different aspect are entering into the third country. That is a global alliance. Now, unless and until you have certain skills or expertise, core competencies, you cannot think of entering into a foreign nation. Now, those products or services which do not require much of the customization will think of these options. You can think of automobiles or the electronic goods which come into this header, or the services like insurance business. They come into this categories. So here the only thing is the deep-rooted competition in the country wherein the company wants to enter, or the strong government regulations. These two problems have to be tackled, as well as the cultural impact, the social and cultural factor. So this is about the local wise global alliance. Now next we see what are the framework, what is the framework and the typology as far as the strategic alliance is considered. Now, strategic alliances are becoming more and more prominent in global economies. According to Peter F. Drucker, the management guru, the greatest change in corporate culture and the way businesses has been conducted is the accelerating growth of relationship based not on ownership but on partnership. So today we see, instead of the companies betting on ownership, they take into consideration the other aspect, that is partnership. Firms can enter into a number of different types of alliances. It depends upon the company and its perspective, which of these to follow. The first one foremost is the contractual agreement. That is the contracts where the companies enter into contracts. They make the agreements for that contractual uh, period. It is one of the simplest form of alliance. Contractual agreement are short-term arrangements that are appropriate when a formal management structure is not required, while the specific provisions of the contract will depend on the business arrangement. Now here it states that it's just the short-term part where you do not require much formal um, management structure as such. It will be the mutual understanding among the companies. They would have a mutual understanding and a contract based upon the requirements of both the companies. The specific provisions would be stated in the contract and would depend upon the business arrangements. Now, the contract should address the duties and responsibilities of each party. So here, when you enter into the contract, it should be specified what would be the duties and responsibilities of each partner, so that there does not remain any ambiguity ahead. There should not be any conflict with reference to sharing of duties or responsibilities. Confidentiality and non-competition. So here, when both the countries they enter into an agreement, they should see to it that they maintain the confidentiality as far as the area expertise is considered, especially in terms of technical know-how, patenting, R&D. The confidentiality should be taken care of, or it should be maintained. The payment terms. The payment terms should be specified. When you enter into an agreement, the returns have to be specified appropriately. The terms should be maintained in the agreement. Scientific or technical milestones. So here, when any scientific, it is with reference to technicalities or maybe operations or innovations, R&D, it should be mentioned properly. There should also be the clause as far as the ownership of new intellectual property is considered. Maybe if the firm is sharing the brand image, brand name, goodwill of the company. So here the ownership of this intellectual property should be mentioned properly. The contract should also include the remedies for breach of contract. What in case suppose any of the partner breaches the clause of the contract? It should also be mentioned. And finally, the termination part. Suppose any of the companies would like to terminate, or maybe the contract is signed for just a specific project. As the project ends, the contract would end. So here the termination clauses should also be stated appropriately. It should be mentioned properly. All these points frame an important part of the agreement, so that there is no ambiguity among both the parties, those who are signing the contracts. Where the examples of this contractual strategic alliances like licensing agreements for marketing of the products. Maybe a company has the products and other company just takes care of the marketing, promotion and distribution of the products. They have just the agreements for this task of promoting the products through their distribution channel in the global market. Development agreements, marketing, promotion, distribution agreements, development agreements, service agreements. So here there are various forms of agreements. Now the next is horizontal strategic alliance. A horizontal strategic alliance is an agreement and alliance among companies which operate their business in the same industry. Same industry, maybe if there are two companies which are operating in telecommunication, and if they go for alliance, so it is horizontal strategic alliance. If two companies are operating in the steel industry and they go for alliance, so it is horizontal strategic alliance. So two companies which operate their businesses in the same industry and come together for the sake of sharing mutual benefits, then it is a horizontal strategic alliance. The alliance is among businesses that used to be competitors. So we can say here two competitors come together. Instead of fighting for the market share, both of them they come together and enjoy the market share as the leaders. They join hands and share resources to achieve a competitive edge in the market. Now, here, when two strong companies, one may be a leader, the other may be a follower, both of them join hands, then they enjoy the market leadership. They share all the resources. The companies become much more stronger and have the competitive advantage over the other competitors. One of the best example of horizontal alliance is the Nissan and Renault. This helped both the companies to limit the research and development cost, rationalize the logistic cost, and achieve economies of scale through bulk production. Now, alliance between Microsoft and Yahoo is the other example. The intent or the purpose of alliance was to use Microsoft's Bing search engine as a search engine on Yahoo's website. So here both of them they come together. Everybody wants to increase their market share, which ultimately leads to the increase in the revenues. And increasing the revenues or market share is one of the main purposes for the businesses to enter into the market, global markets. So this is about a horizontal strategic alliance. Now, vertical strategic alliance. A vertical strategic alliance is stretching your business upward, downward, or both of the supply chain. Now, an automobile manufacturing companies take a business partnership with a foreign distribution network while entering into a new market in another countries. So here, a four-wheeler automobile manufacturer may take the help of the foreign distribution network, which has a strong distribution network, and get into a foreign nation. For example, Caterpillar's provision of manufacturing services to Land Rover is one of the examples. Now, as far as the services are considered, you may find that tours and travel operators, they have the tie-up with the other service providing industries, like you may say the restaurant business, the hotel business. They have the alliance. So here both the businesses get benefited through this alliance. Very strong alliance are associations among businesses in different industries. So here the businesses they tie up as far as the different industries are considered. The companies from different industries they come together and form a strategic alliance. That's why we say it's a vertical strategic alliance. It is usually found in service sectors where collaboration of expertise can be coordinated to offer complete solutions to clients. This vertical alliance aims at intensifying and improving their relationships to enlarge companies' network to be able to offer at the lower prices. So here the basic aim is to offer better services to the customers at a lower price. Now, if you see tours and travel operators, they come into this category. The hospitals types with the insurance business or the companies type with the insurance business, they also come into this categories where the where one company takes help of the other company and both the companies get mutually benefited. That is what is the framework for vertical strategic alliance. The next is the joint venture. A joint venture refers to the business arrangements in which two companies or two organizations bring their resources together for the purpose of achieving a particular goal or particular aim. Now, here it could be a short term or a long term goal. So, it depends upon company's perspective whether they want to enter into a short term goal or a long term goal. Now, here the objectives of both the companies, they have their objectives clearly set. The partners share profits, resources, losses, and cost of operations. So both of them are responsible for carrying out the operations in the global market. So when two companies form a joint venture, a new business entity is formed. So from these two parent companies emerge a child which is a different business entity. It has its own business identity. It operates separately from the two business partners. So from these two parent companies emerges one company. The joint venture takes advantage of resources, goodwill, supplier relationship, and technological know-how of partnering firms. So here when these two companies come together, they have to decide upon pros and cons while entering into a joint venture. One of the example is of Google. Google's parent company Alphabet formed a joint venture with GSK, that is GlaxoSmithKline, to create a new venture called Valvani Bioelectronics. The newly formed venture is dedicated to develop advanced medical devices for patients. The medical expertise of GSK and the technological advancement of Alphabet has been combined to create higher competitive advantage. Otherwise, individually would have been difficult task for these companies. So here Google is into the technical know-how, while GSK is into the pharmaceuticals. So both of them, they have their own individual expertise. When they come together, they materialize. Both of them, they club and enter the markets, benefiting each other or helping each other. Similarly, Google and NASA together, they developed the Google Earth. Both of them, they came together. The next part is the equity strategic alliance. Equity strategic alliance is when a business shares and equity of the other businesses. Two businesses purchase shares and equity of each other firm. The equity alliance is formed when organization purchase equity in other organization, thus providing partial ownership of the company. So here the companies have the mutual understanding as far as the purchasing of equity in other firm is considered. It gives the right to both the partners to claim the ownership on the company. Now, the relationship between Panasonic and Telsa is one of the best examples. Panasonic invested $30 million in battery technology for electric vehicles. It resulted in the form of establishment of lithium-ion battery plant in Nevada. Now, this type of strategic alliance allows a company offer financial support by purchasing a portion of their equity and in return owning control on a portion of their business operations. Walmart had invested in Indian e-commerce giant Flipkart to gain the market share. So here both the companies can exercise their control as both of them have their equity shares in the businesses of each other. So this is about the equity strategic alliance. Non-equity strategic alliance. A equity share alliance is when non-equity strategic alliance is when businesses make an alliance, an agreement where they share resources without creating any separate businesses. So here they don't have their separate businesses. They come together. It is usually informal and flexible. So here it is much more, uh, it has much more leverage as compared to the joint venture or equity strategic alliance, as it is an informal and has flexibility than regular form of partnership. A large number of companies usually go for this type of alliance. Many of the companies do go for this type of alliance. The objective of such type of business alliance is to gain an advantage in sales, marketing, production, and research and development. The company form such type of alliance to strengthen their value proposition or to cater to more potential customers. So usually here, using each other's expertise in the area of either sales or marketing or production processes or research and development part to reach to more number of customers. Like here we can take an example of non-strategic alliance between the McDonald's and Coca-Cola. Here McDonald's offer Coca-Cola beverages with their meals, which enhances their value proposition. At the same time, Coca-Cola is able to cater to more customers in the market. Companies take advantage of each other's strengths here. Now here the degree of financial risks is much lower as degree of investments is also lower. However, it may offer less financial returns as compared to joint ventures or equity strategic alliance. So here, as far as the financial investment part is considered, it is the lower risk with low investments and less financial returns. But here, once you have gained that brand image, it helps in increasing the customer loyalty to penetrate the market very quickly and gain a competitive edge over the competitors. Now, apart from this, there may also be different terms as far as the typology and framework is considered. Like there can be marketing and sales alliance. Two companies into the same industry may come together for marketing or selling the products or services. Or two companies from the different backgrounds, they come together for the sake of selling the product or marketing. This is a marketing and sales alliance. Here there is joint marketing agreements. Maybe two companies operate in different locations and this just exchange a product and just the agreement is restricted to the marketing of the products. Value added resellers is the other part which comes into this marketing or sales alliance. Value added resellers means maybe a company has a brand name. The product is from the product parent product is from the one company, and when it enters the other global market, you change the packaging, you add the value and resell the product in the foreign markets. This also happens many a times that at the core the product remains the same, but when it enters into a foreign nation, the packaging, labeling, brand name, it does change, as the original product is not acceptable by these foreign markets. Similarly, there may be alliance with reference to product and manufacturing alliance. It may be with reference to procurement, supplier alliance, or joint manufacturing. Both the companies come together, they have their manufacturing base, and jointly they manufacture the products. The next is the technology and know-how alliance. That may be with reference to technology development or university industry joint research. When two companies come together to form the R&D, which requires huge investment, so both of them they come together for the purpose of technology know-how alliance. So the next part is value potential. Strategic alliance create value by improving current operations, changing competitive environment, easy entry and exit. Now here, the first one, improve current operations. The current operations are improved due to economies of scale from successful strategic alliance. When you have the strategic alliance, you gain more customers. When you are into successful alliances, both the companies, okay, they enjoy the economies of the scale because you increase your market, you have more customers into your umbrella, you increase the market share, which gives rise to reducing the cost of production. The cost of distribution is also spread, and hence the company gains the economies of the scale. They enjoy the economies of the scale. Ability to learn from other partner. The operations get improved over the time as you learn from the competitors. When you enter into a strategic alliance, some of the companies, no company is perfect, no organization is perfect, they lack something, there are some limitations. Here, by undertaking this strategic alliance, one company learns one or the other thing from the other company, maybe R&D, maybe technical support, operations part, how to improve the efficiency. So the one partner learns from the other partner. The next is the risk and cost being shared between both the partners. So here it improves the operations as the risk and the cost is being shared in between both of these partners. The companies are facing cutthroat competition every now and then. So when individually the companies operate, the whole and sole risk lies upon the single company and also the costs. But when you have a strategic alliance with the other partner, the risk and cost is also shared in between both the partners. Changing competitive environment. creating technical standards. Now, Sony and Panasonic announced to work together to produce a new generation TV. This helps in setting up standardization, and in a competitive environment, it works. So here, in case of this cutthroat competition, two companies coming together will definitely it helps in soothing this environment. If it's a technology driven company, then in that case there is no need of molding the product to suit to the local needs. It is easily acceptable in the market. So here, as far as the environment is considered, local environment is considered, the political factors, the customers, it's been taken care by this local company. Now the next is easy entry and exit. Easing entry and exit of companies through low cost entry into new industries. A company can form a strategic partnership to easily enter into a new industry also. So if a company wants to invest into a new industry, new businesses, it's it improves the value potential of the company. A low cost existence from industries. That is, a new entrant can form a strategic alliance with a company already in the industry who is a market leader, and suppose the other company wants to enter. It gives a competitive edge. It improves the value potential of that company and slowly takes over that company, allowing the company that is already in the industry to exit. So through these means the company thinks of enhancing the value potentials. The next part is partner analysis. In order to understand and find an appropriate company to cooperate with, a company must know the weaknesses and strengths and the motives for joining an alliance of other company. Besides, proper criteria for the partner selection are defined and strategies are framed in view of developing know-how of how to accommodate the partner's management style. So here, before entering into alliance, a company should have a thorough partner analysis about the company into which it is entering for the strategic alliance. Now, the criteria are laid to evaluate and select potential alliance partners. This involves the analysis phase. What all should be analyzed before entering into this alliance? Maybe you should understand the outline of performance goals. What are the objectives of the partner company? Why they want to enter into alliance with us? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? This should be analyzed. Establishment of preliminary requirements and measures. So, what are the requirements when you are entering into the partnership? What are the preliminary requirements and measures should be understood? One should collect, a company should, one should, it means one company should collect internal and external benchmarking data about the other company. They should be aware about the benchmarking data, the performance or the operational potentialities of the other company. They should develop summary of performance objectives, whether the company is the market leader, whether the company is a follower, what is the market share, what are the pricing policies, what is the vision and mission of the company, how beneficial would be this alliance for both of them. This all has to be analyzed. Now, the foundation of a successful strategic alliance is laid during this formation process. Now, this process includes partner selection and the initial agreement in between both the parties. Selecting appropriate partner and deciding the agenda of the alliance are most difficult process in the formation of an alliance. Yet, when done correctly, they help ensure a higher quality, longer lasting relationship for both of the firms. The partner assessment involves analyzing a potential partner's strengths and weaknesses, creating strategies for accommodating all partners, management style, preparing appropriate partner selection criteria, understanding their motives for joining the alliance, and addressing resource capability gaps that may exist for a partner. Now here, the activities most often associated with the selection phase are develop ideal partner profile. So you should have the profile in detail. Create initial list of potential partners. So basically you should have the list of potential partners. Establish and communicate the selection process. Check for referrals or references. One can think of conducting the interviews with the managers. Conduct due diligence, that is watch carefully. And then finally make the selection of the partner. So this is very important aspect when entering into the strategic alliance, that a company should be able to analyze the partner properly so that the alliance works out. The next part is negotiation and design. Now, contract negotiation involves determining whether all parties have realistic objectives, forming high caliber negotiating teams, defining each partner's contributions and rewards, as well as protect any proprietary information, addressing termination clauses, penalties for poor performance, and highlights the degree to which arbitration procedures are clearly stated and understood. The basis of effective long-term collaboration is established at the negotiation stage. Alliance negotiations should reflect the desire of the parties to create a solid foundation for their relationship and a positive attitude for the partnership, for entering into this partnership. Alliance negotiations should try to accomplish three important things. Establish the potential partners' mutual interest and test their strategies fit. Next thing is provide an opportunity to create a foundation of trust and develop a problem solving attitude. So both of them should have the trust among themselves and they should have a positive problem solving attitude. Establish a business and operate an operation plan for the proposed enterprise. Now, in alliance negotiation, several areas require particular attention, including putting together the negotiating team, pre-negotiation preparations, the negotiation process itself, and formalizing the ultimate agreement. So, in detail, we will continue in the next session. What are these steps of negotiation process? Today, we will stop here.